Welcome back. A special welcome to the new subscribers since the last video. I appreciate your support. Before we get into part 2, I want to take a moment to share a few thoughts from part 1 that have cropped up since posting it to YouTube. Firstly, though, I want to apologize for butchering an amazing woman's last name and want to correct myself. In my last video, I briefly mentioned Erica Eiffel, and I mispronounced her last name. I apologize. I will do better with confirming names before I try butchering them myself. Sorry, Erica. Um, and just some thoughts I had. So, when I was reading through the reviews about Caryma's legal services, I kind of noticed a pattern during the process. I even kind of touched on it lightly by mentioning that she sounded like a really great lawyer 5 years ago. As I went through the reviews, they were all positive. However, each following year, her reviews started to become more mixed with an increasing number of unfavorable reviews. My beautiful, intelligent, caring, and supportive partner, who is usually nearby when I'm recording, mentioned that to her it seemed like Caryma's attitude began to change when she began focusing on her career as a cannabis lawyer. And that, unfortunately, that didn't pan out as, well, we all know cannabis is legal now. And I thought it was a very good point that she had brought up, especially with some of the reviews. And personally, I noticed a trend start to swing in the negative near the time of the convoy as she became more influential. Um, like someone who wins a lottery and lets it go to their heads will soon find themselves broke. Um, so, in the same way, someone who wins the lottery of influence will let it go to their heads and soon find that their ego will lead them to a fall. Prima seems to have won that second lottery, and in my opinion, just an opinion, she has been accelerating towards an eventual collapse. So be wary of the pedestals you choose to stand on. It can be a very long fall. Okay, now that I have that out of the way, let's get to what you came here for. Who is Caryma Sa'd? Part 2. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Let's get to it. So, last time we ended on the idea that Prima believes there's a conspiracy um, perpetrated, organized by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network against her. And like I said then, and I'll say it again now, that is just not the case. But we are going to look at that a little bit more in depth, and we're also going to look at what she calls Antifaux, Antifaux, which, if you're not French, it just means anti-fake. Um, and I'll explain what that is in just a little bit. But let's start with Canadian Anti-Hate Network. We're going to go right to their website, and we're going to see what they are about. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network is an independent, non-profit organization made up of Canada's leading experts and researchers on hate groups and hate crimes. Our advisory committee includes academics like Dr. Barbara Perry, court-recognized experts on hate crimes, lawyers with decades of experience with hate groups, people who stood up to the neo-Nazi Heritage Front in the 1990s, and leaders in communities that are being targeted by hate. We have relationships with colleagues and organizations doing similar work internationally, such as the Southern Poverty Law Center and experts in de-radicalization. Our mandate is to monitor, research, and counter hate groups by providing education and information on hate groups to the public, media, researchers, courts, law enforcement, and community groups. So here is their board. So we have Bernie Farber, Richard Warman, Nigel Barif, Sue Gardner, Kurt Phillips, and Evan Balgord, who you may remember had a review. And so I mentioned their mandate here, and I'm looking up here, and I see they have their mandate posted here. So let's go take a look at that. Same thing. How do we define a hate group? A hate group is a group which, as demonstrated by statements by its leaders or its activities, is overtly hateful towards or creates an environment of overt hatred towards an identifiable group as defined in the Criminal Code, the Canadian Human Rights Act, and or the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And there you have each one of the actual specific items they're referring to. Seems like a pretty good thing to be doing. Um, but yeah, those are the people that Caryma thinks is after her. Um, and how much does she dislike Can, and how much exactly does she think they're after her? Well, let's see what she has to say about Canadian Anti-Hate Network, which I'm just going to start calling Can from here on out. So we're just going to scroll all the way to the bottom. I like starting at the older stuff. Old, because then you can see how it evolves over time. Okay, and I think that's kind of important to see. So here we go. July 16th. This is just after the incident, the Chris Sky incident, which we discussed in part one. And as I mentioned then, the problem started between Caryma and Can because of that article that we went over. And here she's talking about people have committed torts against me. What she means is defamation. We're going to talk about that quite a bit here and there, off and on, throughout the rest of the videos. Um, then we go up here, next one, July 17th. My interactions with Can were positive until an article unfairly characterized me of parroting anti-fascist talking points. The author, Morgan Yu, looked to be assisting the blockade. I have since learned he's connected to a feuding co-tenant in the mall courtyard. So Morgan is the one that I mentioned was definitely there to see Caryma fail. I believe he yelled that out on video, but that might have been just a tweet she made. We'll find out here soon, I'm sure. Um, and so he's connected to a tenant that is feuding with Caryma. So he had a reason to be there. Um, Can denies any impropriety with respect to Morgan Yu. But okay, here you go. Recall him yelling, "You're so fucked." So there is no video of it. Just her word. After a while, I was just planning myself to an irony. Don't know if he meant my idea to host a show was fucked or something else. And oh yeah, I want. So here's Dean. Over the past 24 hours, Anti-Hate has tried to have our YouTube channel suspended after outing them as a hate group. So Dean has outed an anti-hate organization as a hate group. And again, this is the third time Dean's done this, and it is all culminating into what's to come. So let's just scroll up here. Oh, she can't speak to Dean's experiences, but she feels personally that she was unfairly treated. These people need to be. There we go. I've had people connected to the loose network of anti-hate accounts openly discussing finding my residence and was physically approached by one of the individuals at a park who said, "We know where you live." The Manning Foundation has its own agenda, of course, as does Can. And it's very interesting that she's worried about people finding out where she lives because, as we will see later on, she has on more than one occasion released information that would either allow people to find certain people or just information that she shouldn't be, like, picture in front of someone's house. Liz Moore from Can did reach out to reconsider, so here we go. As I had mentioned, they had reached out in private. "Hey, Caryma, hope you're doing well. We wanted to reach out as we have significant and genuine concerns regarding your upcoming event with Chris Sky. He has spread extremely dangerous ideas and brought countless people in, radicalizing them to those ideas since his rise. Allowing him and his goons to appear at an event and treating that like a wrestling match is dangerous and undermines the threat of his hateful ideas, especially in a diverse community space. Please reconsider this." This is exactly what was being said by everyone. "Appreciate you reaching out. I want to be clear that I'm not setting up a debate, nor will he be provided an opportunity to spout his rants." Again, I'm going to pause here for a second. You can't control what someone like Chris Sky is going to say and do. And if you think for a second that he isn't going to talk over you and yell over you and take control, take the reins, you're fooling yourself, and you're dumb as shit. So, anyways, my objective is to get him further entrench divisions in the anti-masker movement with a side of mockery. I realize there's nothing entertaining about his message, but so far people seem to respond well to my infotainment approach. I fully appreciate there's a risk of me fucking this up, and that an interview is different than cross-examining in court. There you go. She there admits that there's a huge difference between what she does as a lawyer and what she claims she does when she says she's a reporter or a journalist. They don't translate together. That's and you know what? Maybe that's part of her problem. She's trying to separate two and just confusing it and keeping things. Anyways, I don't really know how to explain what I want to say there. But between denouncing Q and feuding with Hilly Bernier, I'm hopeful his big mouth can be weaponized against him. And here, Liz says exactly what I've been saying. If Sky wants to spout off, he'll spout off. As soon as he's mic'd up, that can't really be controlled. His goons will be there, putting the community at risk, both with COVID and otherwise. We've seen situations before where people targeted and attacked individuals they otherwise they pegged as being at events after the event ended nearby. We'd hate to see that happen here. This infotainment is absolutely platforming someone with violent, hateful views who will not stay quiet because he's told to, especially by someone that falls into the categories of some of the things he hates. So, I mean, he does plenty that can be weaponized against him without something like this. Absolutely agree. All right, so let's scroll up here. There's the advertisement, yada, yada, yada. Morgan Yu. She impugned my credibility leading up to and after the event. This includes calling me a bad actor, stating outright that I have no conscience, insinuating that I am not part of the actual community, and comparing me to Andy Yo. Well, there is a reason for that. Weeks later, most people moved on. The accounts still dragging me were either loosely or directly associated with Can. Can receives federal funding. They received a grant. Their platform, and they no longer get federal funding. Their platform is used to promote legislation that restricts speech. Well, you know what? If any organization is having their information used to promote legislation that's going to make it illegal for Nazis to be Nazis, I'm all fucking for it. Anyways, CAN also has secret anonymous advisory board members, and I believe some of the staff use pseudonyms. Is very opaque. They are trying to use me as a mouthpiece in their own vendetta against CAN, and I feel it's important to clarify that my struggle is my own. The Rebel article is gleefully being shared by leftists as my proof of my true allegiance, which is silly, hence this thread. I didn't ask to be interfered with in criminal or tortious ways, which is how this saga began. No, this saga began, Caryma, because you ignored what was right in front of your face and what you already knew. Chris Sky was dangerous. It was my preference not to be entangled with Can, but we don't always get what we want. My work is compelling. I have no false modesty about hyping myself up. That draws attention. So a little bit of egotism here, and we are definitely going to be touching on her ego here later on. So you see, oh, it might have gone to whether Can funds violent Antifa. Again, Antifa is not a group. And what she's doing here is using a right-wing talking point, the same right-wing talking point that's been going on in America for years and the one that has been rising here. Antifa is not an organization. It's an idealism. It's just the simplest idea that fascists don't belong. We are anti-fascist. It's an individual choice. We're not a group. But yet Caryma here is insinuating that violent Antifa. It's not like that. And that literally is a right wing dog whistle. No question, no doubt. Everyone knows it. She knows it. There's no reason for it other than to smear the left, which is what we're getting into. Of course, I do not agree that any such organization exists in a meaningful way in Canada, but I do agree Can is shady. So you're starting to get a general idea. Um, that she is just obsessed with them. And I'm not going to get into a certain individual that she doesn't even believe exists. But anytime that something happens, it's can is one of her go-to excuses for the reason that these things are happening. It's not her own actions, her own behavior. It's always someone else. In this case, can her WEF. And I just, it's just absolute foolishness to believe that myself and uh, just a group of people who have similar ideals and views are part of an organized conspiracy to ruin Caryma's reputation. Let me make this very clear. If anybody is ruining Caryma's reputation, it's herself, no one else. So, now that we've covered a little more of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, it's going to kind of segue into her Antifaux. Um, and so we'll go right away and we'll see what the definition out of her own mouth. Antifa is short for anti-fascist. Yes. Antifaux refers to those who act in performative or reactive ways under the guise of progressive ideology. And here you see something that is very common with her. It's both siding things. I see no equivalence between far right and left ideology. Far right, she sees no difference between Nazis and people who don't think Nazis are cool. And again, this isn't even an attack on the right. This is like a blatant attack on the left by associating with them with fascism and fascist behavior. And it's something that is very, very, very common with her. And as I said, it's just a foolish name that she's created, and she's using it to discredit actual activists and to smear people, as far as I'm concerned. And I feel it's dehumanizing because when you label a group of people like that and then you just say they're all violent, you're getting rid of their humanity. And that's what she's doing here. And she constantly attacks these a bunch of different people, and we're going to get into some of them here real soon. Um, First thing, before we do that, we're just going to look at how often she uses this term and how far back it goes. When she invented it or whatever. It's a stupid term, anyways. Anti fake, against fake. Well, aren't we all against fake? And that's why I imagine Canadian Anti Hate Network and writer Morgan or whoever it was that wrote the article said that she's anti fascism because that's kind of what anti-phobe means according to her. And I mean, look at this. It goes all the way back, all the way back. It's still loading. Like, this is a lot of attacks on the left, and we're not going to spend too much time here because a lot of these are going to come back up when we move into the individual people that she's targeted. Um, Mostly, I just want to go down and show you how long this has been going on. I mean, this is not something that just started recently. Um, it's damn, it's 10 months. Oh, 9 months. No, 10 months. Yeah. So it's going on a year, and so she obviously does not like Antifaux or people she labels as Antifaux, like myself. Here she tries to distinguish the difference between Antifa and Antifaux, but as we saw in previous statements, the violent Antifa, right? No, she can try to differentiate a year ago, but she doesn't do that now. Not that I've seen. And here she thinks is a big joke. Ha 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 ha. Funny, funny, funny. I mean, it's, and Dean got in on it because Dean's her number one fan. Curious about that relationship. I have questions, but I won't bother getting into it now. So as you can see, this has been going on for over a year, and as I said, she's used it to attack and group together people that her followers will target. Which again, we're going to get into that possibly this video, but by the looks of it, it's going to be in the next video. But we'll see. Um, but yeah, we will get into that. So who are some of these people that she considers Antifaux? Well, let's start with the first person that she called it. Gisela McKay, Gigi, otherwise known as Gigi, and she has been an activist for quite some time. Um, I don't really know her all that well. I know that I've done some things that she didn't approve of, and hey, that's cool. And I don't hold any grudges against her. I know what she's doing out there is really good work. But as you can see, Caryma does not feel the same way. She thinks that she is defamatory. Wow. Statute of limitation is 2 years, so I've got time. Wow. So as you can see, you fail to understand private authorism. Here she has, there we go. Bad actors on both sides. November 16th, 2022. There's another bad actors on both sides. Again, calling self-styled Antifa bad actors. So Antifa's bad. Antifa's bad. And you're going to see that repeated. She's going to substitute them back and forth once in a while. And while she again can argue that Antifaux is separate in her mind from Antifa, she so far hasn't shown that. So here's threats against this small, tiny little black woman um, because she said mean things. And again, like this goes on. She has been after Gigi for quite some time. And of course, I can tell you that Gigi has not taken it lightly. Um, and she has stood her ground, and rightfully so. And here, this was kind of funny. He deserved that, totally deserved that. They, of course, what Caryma does often is edit out videos and edit out context. Just gonna pause that here, bring it back a little bit. What you don't see in this video is that before they were here, they came from over here, crossed the road, and came down directly by her, knowing full well she was there and knowing full well that this animosity exists between the two of them. So she put herself in this position intentionally. And then her cameraman started harassing Gigi, which ended in her kicking him in the balls, which he absolutely deserved. I mean, look at this woman. She's tiny, and Caryma's cameraman's like 6 foot, and his name is Lee or Howard. I'm not really sure, but we're going to call him Lee just because that's easier for me. But like, you see, it just goes on and on. Gisela McKay encourages everyone to film us. Well, yeah, because you film everyone. And again, we're going to get to that in later on. So here she is. Anytime that Gigi is on site, she goes out of her way to film her, take pictures of her, tweet about her, make comments about her. And she gets upset that Gigi is telling people to record them, but that's literally what they're doing as well, and calling out bad actors on both sides. But it's not. It's biased. It's completely biased, and it started with the anti-hate network, and it's just going to escalate even further as we continue on. So one thing I do want to take a look at here is, oh, maybe we don't have it here. There it is. Yeah, see, Gisela was assaulted with a can of paint as a legal observer. You don't have to be a lawyer to be a legal observer, but that's here nor there. So, anyways, there was some questionable things said about it, but either way, even that she's shitting on that too. Like, there's just she's been targeting Gigi for over a year. I think Gigi would tell you it's been even longer than that. I don't know. I can only go by what I see here. Um, but it really just, there's no need. Absolutely no need. Gigi is out there doing good things for the community. She has been doing good things. She continues to do good things. And there's no need for this level of harassment because that's what I feel it is. So we will move on to one of my favorite online friends, Deanna Sharif. And Deanna is a Muslim and she is an activist that is very, very well known among right wing circles. And she is probably someone that is most hated by Caryma and her sadist friends. So let's see what Caryma has to say about Deanna Sharif. And I mean, again, this is how far back does this go? This is she's targeting these people, and they're not just people. They're women. They are women of color, and they're all left-leaning individuals. Every single one of them. And for some reason, she feels it's her duty to expose them as the bad actors, but they're standing up to literal Nazis and fascists, people who want other people dead simply for existing. There is no two sides to that argument, and there is no bad actors on both sides. Are people going to do things they shouldn't? Absolutely, but that's on an individual basis. Do you think anybody here, anybody who calls themselves an anti fascist, really wants to be doing this right now? Do you think any of us are looking forward to the potential thought of having another Nazi war? I mean, we fucking did this already. I thought we made the point. We won, and that was supposed to be it. But here we are again. Nazis are everywhere. And it feels like Caryma is trying to compare those who are against them, or not compare. Yeah, compare them as the same. And they're not. They're just not. So she likes to paint Deanna as a provocateur. She likes to say she baits violence or that she instigates herself, that she's a violent person. She likes to say that Deanna puts her child in danger because her child does come to some of the events with her. And there's nothing wrong with bringing children to an event, to a protest, or to a counter protest. Teach them early to stand up for human rights. There's nothing wrong with that. And she is a good and old enough age that she's not like five or anything. So she's not in any danger. And everyone who goes to these things knows who she is. She is not in any danger whatsoever. And to insinuate that she is, or that Deanna is a poor parent because of it, is just, it's disgusting. And it to me, it's defamation. It, in the above clip, note how Deanna Schiff tries rewriting an incident she did not witness to downplay her daughter's concern. No, she said, in case she gets arrested. Joe Moore reiterated, yeah, because her mom is standing up against not just Nazis, but what seems to be police enforcement agencies that seem to predominantly support these people and do nothing when they are violent or break laws. And the minute that a leftist does, or a counter protester does, they're pulled aside or fined or jailed or told to leave. It's just, it's clearly going into not just the general public, it's seeping into our institutions. And again, comparing the two is disgusting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. The fire ban, that was kind of funny. But again, here is Deanna. She's in the front of it now. From this perspective, apparently Deanna dragged a woman by the hair, and yeah, she did. But I don't know what happened leading up to that. But bottom line, anybody listening to Deanna Sharif needs to understand that she operates on imaginary or misconstrued evidence. She twists and distorts reality to feed her narcissistic tendencies. Follow her advice and instructions at your own peril. This isn't worded as an opinion. This is worded as fact. Anybody listening to her needs to understand that she operates this way as a fact. And I mean, that's the same sort of stuff. Actually, not even close to some of the stuff that she is currently suing people for, and we'll get into those lawsuits later on. Um, you know, Deanna is rough around the edges. She's crass and she's stubborn. But one thing she isn't is stupid and arrogant. And she will, she knows the difference between what's a real danger to her and what's not. And she is a force at these events. People know who she is. People fear her. If they did not fear her, they wouldn't talk about her so much the way that they do. Because Caryma is only one of many now that attack Deanna on the regular. She is one of their prime targets, and it primarily has to do with Caryma's attacks on Deanna. Some of it came from prior to that, but a lot of it has only uptake. The uptick in it has really started since Caryma again started targeting this activist in the community, a woman, a Muslim woman, like her. She is also a Muslim woman, and I mean, there's no, I don't know. She says she gets targeted for her culture or for things like that, but she's doing the same thing right here to Deanna. I mean, it could be said, "Oh, what are you targeting her because she's Muslim?" I mean, I don't know how many times I've been told that by one of her sadist friends. Yeah, well, just because you're Jewish doesn't necessarily mean you're not a Nazi, but I don't know enough about him. So, yeah, again, you can see a lot of the times, again, Deanna will be present, and Caryma and Lee will go out of their way to inject themselves into things. And a lot of it could be avoided if she just left the people alone that didn't want to talk to her. But instead, she targets them anytime anyone criticizes her because, well, I'm not sure. Maybe she has a frail ego. It, there are any number of possibilities. Um, so moving on, I am going to go through a few of these more in depth than others because I feel it's important to give a good idea of the spectrum of people that she's targeted and attacked. Again, in my opinion, um, because there's a lot of them. We started with Gigi, a black activist. We have Deanna, she's a Muslim, she's also an activist. And now we have Faye Johnstone, who is not just an activist, she's a trans activist. And she is very popular among the trans community and has helped in countless and endless ways to help trans youth across the country. There's no reason that I can fathom that one could have that much of an issue with Faye unless you are a bigot or you are a transphobe. But let's take a look at what she has to say. She says she got defamed by Faye, who then portrays herself as the victim when she was politely asked to account for words. Classic Darvo. Don't even ask. You can look it up for yourself. They like to throw that word around. It's one of their words that helps promote their narrative. So, yeah, they had a interaction at a protest, and even though Caryma claims to have never engaged with Faye or the other gentleman, what happened was that Caryma went to go in to talk to someone again who did not want to talk to her, and Faye put herself in between them and just kind of cut her off. And since that happened, um, she has attacked Faye and targeted her, said she smeared her. Um, you know, here we go. What does this say? Caryma's cameraman spotted me while I was going out for food in Toronto earlier this week. He proceeded to follow me and pester me with questionings, ignoring my repeated requests to be left alone. Like that's literally you're stalking people, and she has an excuse for this, and we're really going to get into that later because it pisses me off. It's her constant excuse. Oh, there it is. See, just he doesn't want to talk. So Faye helped out her activist friend, and clearly you weren't welcome to talk to them. He didn't want to talk to you, but yet you persist to push yourself inside there. It's no wonder that people don't appreciate you being present. You don't respect boundaries. And as far as I can see, yeah, by attacking a trans activist for helping out a fellow activist, you are acting a bit like a transphobe. Like there's just no need. You're smearing this wonderful woman who has done far more for this country than you could ever dream of. And I look forward to all the amazing things that Faye is going to do in the future. I just can't say enough good things about her. Next, we're going to visit Ariel Troster, who is not only a counselor, but I believe she is also of Jewish descent. It's not so much here on Ariel, but if I've been having to go into the latest. So here you see that she's trying to serve Deanna. We'll talk about those later. Um, Mostly what she does with Ariel is associate her to other people that she has beef with, and this has caused her to become a target as well. And this is really, like, I posted about this one on Twitter. This is some super psycho creepy stuff right here. This woman is out for tea, waiting for the Governor General to arrive at the building. She's inside, and some lunatic had to get in as close as they could, zoom in as much as they could to take these shitty ass pictures. Look at this. Who does this? That is creepy and stalkerish. And if that was me, I'd consider that harassment. Like, if that was her home, you'd be a peeping Tom and arrested. It's gross. And there's no need for it whatsoever. Again, this is someone who has openly told them that she doesn't wish to speak to them, but yet not only do they not listen, but they persist in stalking her in public and use that as an excuse for their journalism. And it's not going to work forever. It's gross, and I'm calling it out. It needs to stop. Your whole shtick of no expectation of privacy in public, no, that's BS, and you know it. You're using it as an excuse to do these things. And that, I firmly believe, that is an opinion. Still, can't prove it, don't, but that's what I totally believe. Next one up here is Joe Hardin, an NDP MPP, who is also a drag defender and trans defender and just a defender of the queer community in general, as well as obviously a provincial member of parliament. So again, this guy is out here getting dragged at a drag defender or a drag protest, and he's got his microphone up, and a kerfuffle happens, and it gets smashed into his face, and he gets injured. But yet, here we are calling it fake. Here he's allegedly, sorry, not fake, allegedly. My apologies. Let me correct that. It's not allegedly. It happened. He got pushed and smashed into his face. He didn't do it on purpose, has been suggested a number of times. And it just, her reason for attacking him, again, is because he is a leftist and he is associated with people that she considers to be Antifaux. Again, Deanna Sharif was there. And again, another target. And I mean, again, look, they go and they seek these people out when they're at public events or just when they're out living their lives, minding their own business. I mean, this is just pure harassment. You can say it's no expectation of privacy in public, but no, this is just harassment as far as I'm concerned, and it's got to stop. It's gross. Ugh. Just want to mention one thing here before I move on. That smirk, not as good as one I've seen her make, but that smirk, that is the smirk of arrogance and narcissism. And I know it because I worked with it for 8 years on a fishing boat. I know that smirk. And I don't like it. It's a bully smirk. So yeah, like just on and on and on, targeting this poor man, just walking down the street trying to live his life, blaming him for the behavior of other people. That was a good one, the whistle. If you don't like the sound of the whistle, take 2 steps to your left or right or back or forth, whatever you need to do to get away. Is it right? Maybe not, but it's a whistle. you'll be I. Okay, so that really concludes the ones that I really wanted to go really in depth with, and show you like these people get targeted not because they've done necessarily anything negative to her, but because they're associated with people that she feels have wronged her, or who have defamed her, who have criticized her, or threatened her, or whatever the case. Not everyone that she is that I feel she targets is someone that's been critical of her, um, at least not until after she began rants on them and, you know, seeking them out when they're just trying to walk down the street. So we do have some other notable entries that, I think we should just at least briefly cover. Um, Rachel Gilmore, definitely one of my favorite journalists. Um, I love her content. Global, you really screwed up when you let her go. I'm really enjoying her on TikTok, and I definitely encourage everyone to find her on TikTok. She's really trying to change the landscape of how news is delivered and connect with a younger generation in a way that probably hasn't been done before, but definitely needs to be done because we need to motivate younger people to get involved and to be part of this process so we can get out of this mess we find ourselves in before it's too late and those young people end up being drafted and sent off to war. So, again, um, Rachel Gilmore, prize winning global journalist, and look at that, she even won an award. Um, and the award was actually her and Erica and Saba, who we will mention here in a moment here too. They were all I believe, mutual recipients of this award that had to do with bringing to light online bullying, harassment, racism, and it was just absolutely amazing to see these three amazing, intelligent women be acknowledged for the hard work that they do. Um, and sometimes I think that Caryma's jealous of that. You know, and I mean, what's not to be jealous of that? I mean, the problem is that these women put in the time. They put in the hours, the hard work. They put up with the discrimination. They didn't just fall into their careers. They worked hard for them. You got your current, what you call journalism career from Twitter. Twitter, now X, probably the most Nazi filled social media site there is right now, or at least the most used. So I maybe she's jealous. But again, she's attacking Rachel, and Rachel doesn't really try to get involved in this. She's tried to stay out on a number of occasions, but she just keeps coming back to her every once in a while just to remind people that, I don't know, she thinks she's better than Rachel. And again, Rachel's a left leaning individual who reported, again, on the convoy in the same way. And so, the people she is targeting and attacking are all people that are trying to stop all the terrible things that are coming. And I can't fathom a reason for doing that unless A, you want those things to happen, or B, you're actively trying to make them happen. And not that I'm saying she's doing either. However, someone in her position would stand to benefit greatly and financially with a rise in right wing populism, eh, by attacking the left. It's just a thought. So, another one of her uh, people that she likes to talk about a lot. This is Dr. Neely Kaplan Mirth. She's a doctor and trustee, and she is also of Jewish descent, just like Howard or Lee, her cameraman. So you would think that there would be a little bit more empathy involved in this, but no, it's just, again, going, oh, well, how did this end up here? Then we didn't get this right. Hold on a second. We will have to. Sorry about that, guys. I must have forgot to put the right link in there. Advanced search. Get that right here quick. Caryma rules. There we go. Here we go. So here we go. So again, not too much on her, but enough to just make her a target, and which is really bad enough because this woman is getting death threats now repeatedly by emails, being warned not to go into work or to show up at meetings. It's just absolutely disgusting. Let me see if I can find one of those emails. She just recently posted. Dear groomer pedophile Neely, for your own safety, don't go to the OCDSB meeting. I'm talking to you, you hook-nosed hypochondriac. Everyone knows that your stupidity knows no bounds. But if you show up in person to the OCDSB meeting, you're more than a with brain damage. It would be the height of narcissism to put others in danger. Oh, and do not post this on Twitter. I mean, we got anti-Semitism, we got racism, we got racial slurs, we got attacks against. Oh my God, it just doesn't end. And this is something that happens to this poor woman on the regular. And having someone like Caryma with that kind of following and engagement targeting you or putting a target on you, whether intentionally or not, is not helping the situation, whatever whatsoever. Caryma does have a large amount of far right followers, and whether she's aware of it or wants to acknowledge it is irrelevant. They exist, and every time she puts one of these people up, they become a target for them, and then that gets passed on. Here we have Joe Morin, good buddy of mine. I like Joe. He's got a calm mind. He is the yin to the Deanna Yang, and I think that the pair of them complement each other. He probably keeps her out of more trouble than she would probably normally get in. So good job, Joe. Deanna, don't you leave anywheres without him. But again, Joe is mostly silent. He's a cameraman. He does Twitch, and he also does Twitter Spaces here on Friday nights. So, but again, he's a leftist, an anti-fascist, and labeled Antifaux. And again, she derides him, and they've made fun of his looks before, but maybe not her. But we'll get into her followers. And again, trauma inflicted on Deanna's 9-year-old kid. That girl is not going through trauma. Um, DCMA takedown. I know it didn't stay, but it was still funny. But again, she's making fun of him. She's belittling him, calling him an agitator. And again, here, like he's being purposely targeted by our cameraman, and he's trying to return the favor, and he's the one that gets pushed away. So again, that kind of just leans towards, which side the police seem to be more leaning towards. But yeah, good for you, Joe. Keep recording, buddy. And next up on the docket, we have, oh, that was a bad choice of words. Sorry, Christina. Christine Crockett. Again, this is another elderly woman. She's mostly just there as transportation to help people get to and from locations. Uh, she actually knits when she's on site. I mean, look at this woman. What kind of threat is this woman? How could you possibly put this woman into a group called Violent Antifa or Antifa? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. She's an elderly woman that drives people to where they need to be because they either A, can't afford it, or B, don't have their own car, or for whatever reason. But she is a good person. She goes to stand up for queer rights of all kinds and mostly just stays in the background. And yet still here she is a target. And not only is she a target, but she's being called racist, I believe, for comparing Caryma to Andy No, even though she's very quickly becoming very much like him, as far as I can tell. But she goes to her car. They record inside of it. I think they had some dowels in the car one time, and they tried to suggest that they were going to be used as weapons. Like, it's just outlandish. And they're not accusations. They're just questions, suggestions, and you can get away with that. And she knows it. And she also must know the result of what that's going to do when you put targets on people like this and use that kind of language and suggest those kind of ideas. Now, Kevin, I don't really know very much about him at all. We are going to briefly mention him again later, but he, again, is just another person that Caryma has felt wrong with. She accused him of harassment, him and his wife. There are legal matters with them. We'll touch on that when I get to lawsuits. Apparently, he was at the Chinatown blockade, so that's probably a good reason, good place to start on where they had a falling out. But again, targeting another activist, another leftist, a community defender, and just setting them up as a bad guy. And Clayton Goodwin, fellow Nova Scotia, veteran, and again, attacking him for his veteran status at some points and making light of his Veterans Accountability Association. Yeah, okay, so he doesn't do much with it. Do you know how hard not everyone has the time, energy, resources to be able to maintain these things. Like my YouTube channel was spawned in like 2006 or 2009, and I'm literally just getting around to using it now. So judge not unless you be judged and all that nonsense. So, she accuses him of being an infiltrator in a using a fake account, and pretty much, again, she will attack him because he has criticized him, but he isn't a real big focus of hers, but he does come up every once in a while. And again, here we have another journalist. I don't know what her cultural descent is, but I know she is not just white. Um, I apologize to you, Saba, for that. I tried to reach out to you ahead of time. That's Saba Itizaz. Sorry if I butchered that. Um, but yeah, another one, and she shared that award with Erica and with Rachel for exposing bullying and hatred and all kinds of stuff. And yet again, guilt by association, it feels criticisms of, and a lot of, when I say criticism of Caryma, I don't mean just saying, oh, she's arrogant. I mean, people actually start out with honest criticisms of something she's done. And I'll give you an example of that when we get to the last person here, which is going to be me. And she takes it so personally, or refuses to accept it. And a lot of the time, she resorts to blocking you. And if you point that out or escalate things in any way, or whatever, she will do what she has done with all these people: create posts and threads, allude to things, suggest things. And it just, what she can't not know what she's doing. She's painting targets on these backs. And I'm not going to accuse her of doing it intentionally, regardless of how I particularly feel about the matter. But the point is, it's happening. And she should acknowledge that before somebody gets hurt, because somebody will get hurt. Because I don't know if anyone, if she hasn't been reading the news that she's been reporting on herself, but trans people are in a lot of trouble right now. And simply being trans right now is literally a life and death situation for a lot of people in a lot of places. I just don't understand it. So I saved me for last because I didn't want to talk about myself too much at the start or anything like that. Um, I've had problems with Caryma for some time, and while I can't say what started the issues for everybody else, um, I can pinpoint for me, from my end, I can't speak for her, what really started opening my eyes up to what kind of person I felt she was. And, and um, sorry about that. I think I hear my son crying, so we're just going to have to take a break here. I remember what it was for me that made me start opening up my eyes to what I feel Karima actually is, and not who she presents herself to be. Um, Now, for those of you who may or may not know, for a while I was monitoring Jeremy McKenzie of the Diagolon, and in one of their after party chats, I happened to capture a pretty disgusting joke about Pierre Poilievre's wife, Ada Poilievre, and what Jeremy wanted to do to her. I'll link it up here, but I'm not going to play it in this one. So after that happened, it obviously gained a lot of media attention, because I mean Pierre is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, so it's kind of a big deal. Not me, but I mean just the incident. Anyways, Caryma came out with a physical representation of that disgusting, deplorable, degrading, I guess, joke, if you want to call it that. Um, and she called it a satire comic, and it is just absolutely disgusting. No need for it whatsoever. In fact, I still consider it to be worse than the actual verbal joke itself. Mostly because you're just repeating what a terrible person has already said, but you're doing it graphically, and there was just no need for it. So it was at that point when I started criticizing about that I got blocked, and things started to happen between Caryma and I back and forth every once in a while, pretty much any time that I would criticize her. So we're going to go over Caryma's timeline here, and we're going to take a look at some of the things she has to say about me, or she's had. And I mean, this is just searching my name. It's not searching any of the nicknames they've given me, like Ocean Waffin or Aquanazi. I haven't searched for any of my user or account tags that I've used in the past. And the reason I changed them as I was just to screw with one of her sadists, Audrey Skook, who was trying to monitor me for some God knows reason. I think something to do with a lawsuit that, again, I'm sure I'll get into that later on when I'm done this particular video or set of videos and get into some of her sadists. So I have ignored most of John Tebow's attempts to drive harassment my way. I never sent harassment your way. I have criticized you. If people took that criticism and did something with it, honest criticism, like I just did with that joke, that's not on me, and I don't think anyone should be harassing you. His supporters failed to intervene or redirect, instead choosing to enable, indulge bad behavior by buying into the fantasy that he's a legitimate researcher. Guess what, hun? I'm as legitimate a researcher as you are a journalist. I spent the more time in the trenches of Diagolon than you did at the convoy. So, eat it. I am privy to information that would make you feel worse for his partner, unlike John Thibault. It's not my style to air anyone's dirty laundry. Uh, my partner's pretty proud of me. She chose me. She's pretty happy, and she knows everything about me. There's nothing that she doesn't know whatsoever. So, I mean, that's gross speculation. Oh, this one. John Thibault is making reckless and defamatory statements. I don't think I ever did. Opinions are not defamatory statements. They're opinions based on behavior and actions. There are in nature neither rewards nor punishments. There are consequences. My New Year's resolution is to be even more deliberate about my choices. So this I take as a threat. Oh, no part of this is true. I'm Darvoing. Yeah, no, I'm not Darvoing. You openly attacked a trans woman. You shit on her. You put a target on her back. Yeah, that's what you did, and you blame her because you were not welcome. One, and two, you asked to speak to the man. The man told you no, and you persisted. Now that's on you. That's don't say that it's not true. You directly or indirectly, yeah, you were harassing her. You created a danger for her that did not exist prior to that, and that's on you, as far as I'm concerned. My page is public, and I don't know whether Thibault uses alt accounts. Oh my god, try some humility before you end up eating some humble pie. This has got to be the most ridiculous. Okay, humble. We're going to look this up because this is the stupidest thing, and this is what she does. She knows what this is. She's just trying to twist it into making it think like I was trying to threaten her. Humble pie expression. Yeah, you notice I'm not using Google here. Block my news. A pie formula made. No, that is not what it is. There it is. Oh my good gracious. An admission that one is wrong, usually when it triggers great embarrassment or shame. That is what I can't wait for, Caryma. your embarrassment and shame when it comes. Not because I would don't not because I hate you, I don't hate you, just because I get great schadenfreude from seeing people who are up on their high horse, like I feel that Caryma is, being knocked down a peg or two. I'll get more into that, what I think of Caryma, my opinions on her, at the very end of this particular video parts. Um, I have made it clear on several occasions that digital surveillance of my Twitter account by strange men is unsettling and scary. My next steps will involve formal, that hasn't happened, critique and harassment. No, it's not harassment, Caryma. No more than what you have done to any of the people that we've already covered, including up to and including myself. If you're going to tell me that I am harassing or that someone else that we've talked about is harassing, then you have to openly also admit that you too are doing the same thing. It's tit for tat. You can't have it both ways. You don't get your cake and eat it too. That's an expression, just in case I needed to explain that. Uh, it's stalking. It's not stalking. It's called looking in to see how you are negatively impacting communities and individuals that I think are good people that you're running through the mud, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, yes, we all know about these active RCMP files. I don't have a You know what? This is what I mean by twisting words, and you'll see this when we get into our sadists as well. They like to turn this in. They use their hypocrisy by acting in one way and then claiming victim when it's done to them. No one's harassing him. Harassing is a daily, repeated process of emails and showing up at your house and texting and DMs. This is not harassment. This is pointing out shitty behavior. There's a difference. We're allowed to perceive what Caryma does as shitty if that's how we perceive it. It's a subjective observation. That's all. No, it doesn't mean don't give up and kill yourself. Never get on the truck. Jesus, oh my God. I had a military man actually explain this on my wall, but we'll get never get on the truck. Military expression, which I got from Jeremy McKenzie, who also tried to twist this into me wanting to commit suicide. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Okay, it doesn't have. But anyways, pretty much is I believe it's what it's called is a rucksack walk, and you get these huge backpacks with lots of weight, and you got to walk for miles and miles and miles in the heat and all kinds of rough terrain. And there's one truck there that anytime you want to give up, you get on the truck and give up, and they'll take you back home. But you getting on the truck is giving up, and you're not supposed to give up, so you never get on the truck. So when I said that's what I meant. I was giving up, not I was going to off myself, which is a stupid narrative these people started that we will get into over my biggest when we look into some of the things that she's actually done to me. Nobody else in recent memory, apart from John Tebow, has identified themselves as associate of Brian Trotry. Maybe, just maybe, untrained civilians should not play spy. I'm not getting into Brian Trottier right now. We will discuss him later. Yeah, that's because I had an account that was following you and got a notification, you twat. I guess I wasn't right. My apologies. You're not a twat. It's just use your yeah. And even if I didn't, like, it could have just randomly I don't check in on Caryma every second of every day. Uh, it all depends on what I see in my news feed, really. Oh look, so there you go. There's my county and province. Oops, yeah, county and province she listed. Doesn't matter. It's not where. I mean, I'd still live there, but I was laughing at Krista, not at your crotch. I'm sorry, but I don't find your crotch attractive. It's not my thing. Makes a list of mostly women he harasses, but sometimes I never claim to be the victim because my behavior is being documented. What I am claiming as a victim is smearing lies and purposely misstruing information, which has been done on a number of occasions, a large part by your followers, by her followers. And yes, I have a list, and we are going to see the list in another video. Um, yeah, I openly associated with Brian Troche, and that has been explained on my Twitter numerous of times, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later on in another part of this video. Stellar journalism. Yours isn't very great either. This is Nazi saluter John Tebow maligning me as a Nazi. Again, if you want to understand this story, she's ignoring context, and I'm not a Nazi saluter. That is me, and there's a lot of context behind it. And regardless of that context, that was wrong. That was bad. That was hateful, and I regret 100% having done it. But I don't deny having done it. Okay, I understand what I did was absolutely wrong, despite the context of the situation, and having no intention to be hurtful or to cause pain to other people. However, in retrospect, looking back, it's very easy for me to identify that it was the stupidest thing I've probably ever done in my life. And I don't mean that I let people take a picture of it. I just mean the actual decision, because even without the picture, I would know. And I don't like that I did that. I can't change it. And so I own it. I don't try to deny it. But it does not make me a Nazi. And again, this is something she is well aware of, and all of her little sages are aware of, because that one picture is the only thing they ever use when it comes to trying to smear me or call me a Nazi. That's it. They have no other evidence, nothing else from my history or my past that would insinuate in any way that I was a fascist or a far right extremist or a Nazi in any way. No, they use a picture that I personally uploaded with context and a backstory to explain, not excuse what I did, but explain it. And I took accountability for that, and they've done nothing but weaponize it against me. And hey, that's your bag, baby. That's your bag. But at least own it. Don't pretend you're actually calling out a Nazi. You're not. You're calling out an anti-fascist, just like all the other people on that list. So this one here is a particularly alarming thing that happened. So, like I said, there was one moment, no, a couple months ago, where I just got dogpiled so much, and I just, it was a lot. So I decided, I'm done with this. That they win, they can be the people they want to be. I'm done trying to expose the hatred, point out the bad behavior, and so I said I was getting on the truck, which meant I was quitting. But again, they twisted it into it being a lot more than it was. Caryma did, and so did a lot of her sadists. And we'll get into the extremes of how far that got later on when we look at each one of the sadists in upcoming videos. So the thread is, this morning I received a phone call from the RCMP who had been contacted by Caryma. This is the start of it. I was informed my tweet had made her feel threatened. I was also informed that she believes I coordinate with drag defenders to harass her. So there's more of that paranoia conspiracy. I don't. I talk with drag defenders. I have a circle of friends who are drag defenders. Sometimes we talk about you, just like you talk about us, but we don't coordinate anything. I've heard about sitting at tables. I think the interpretation is too literal. Association is not the same as endorsement. No, yes, it is. When it comes to Nazis, it certainly fucking is. If you associate with a Nazi, you endorse them. There's no question about that. The only way you can associate with a Nazi without endorsing it is associating your fists to their face. While it's fair to criticize people for the company they keep, it's equally important to be judicious and thoughtful applying stigma. So first of all, I didn't call her anything. I suggested it. If there are 10 Nazis at a table and Derek sits down, there are 11 Nazis at the table. If Caryma is there recording history, there are 12 Nazis in the room altogether. I stand by that statement. Stand by it, even though I did delete it. The officer informed me that there was nothing criminal about the post, but that it has the potential to become a civil matter if things escalate. At no time did he request or ask me to remove the post. I explained to him my version of the events from the last few months, Caryma calling people to get information on me, releasing enough information that dangerous people could find me, and the weaponizing of a picture of my son to accuse me of abuse. At the end of the call, I voluntarily offered to remove the offending posts and any others as a sign of good faith. That's a quote. The officer said he was going to investigate Caryma's timeline, call her back, and request she hide the picture posts of my son on her feed. That has not happened. This has been 7 months. Again, I voluntarily removed a post and asked for nothing in return. It was the officer who felt it should come down. I did not ask him to do this. Will Caryma do the right thing and remove it now that an RCMP officer asked? No, she won't. Caryma also accused me of specifically coordinating with anti-hate and supporters conspiracy. I don't and haven't ever organized anything with anyone since 2011 for activism. That was when I was with Occupy Nova Scotia. I do consider them allies and some friends, but I live 2 provinces over. I have never called her a Nazi. I have called into question her choices of who she defends legally and online, her hypocrisy, and her arrogance. I have posed a single hypothetical, which was the reason Caryma called the police, but then shared it herself. There was no threat, not now, not ever. There was no suggestion of violence, not now, nor ever. That she herself reshared said post just further indicates that Caryma was attempting to bully me into silence. That won't happen, but I will be more careful with my words. Caryma identified herself as both a lawyer and a journalist. As a journalist, especially, she is open to criticism of her words and actions just like any other journalist. It's not harassment, it's not silencing, and it's not bullying. It's accountability. I'm going to keep the posts I removed deleted. I have every right to post them if she is going to, but I'm better than that. I'm better than her. I'm no saint by any means, but I have integrity. This is Caryma's true colors. If you are following her or supporting her, you are now doing so with the knowledge that she is not who she portrays herself to be. And then here's some more things where she attacks another user, Tony, for an image he shared, but yet shared her own content of sexual assault, which is what she claimed it to be after she couldn't call it child porn because it was the individual was a legal adult. Hypocrisy. Last one, but is this a threat? It honestly and certainly feels like one. I understand this to mean that I'm a target and she will attack me by any means necessary. Here's a potato. Just just an ad as I'm pinning this to a new thread. And that was just one of them. Oh, I hear my son again, so we're going to have to take a pause and we'll come back. All right, he is back in bed and happy to be. So, yeah, the biggest incident that I had with Caryma was that I kind of gave up on Twitter and trying to deal with them because it was just too much to deal with. So she took it upon herself to call in a wellness check. And at 10 after 1 in the morning, the RCMP showed up my home because Caryma had called and told them I might be suicidal. I, I don't even know where to begin with that. The absolute bullshit, bullshit narrative that they spun that night is so far beyond reality. It just boggles absolute it just boggles me. I don't understand. This was intentional. As far as I'm concerned, this was intentional. This put me at risk. This put my family at risk, my wife, my children. Sending an RCMP welfare check to people's houses has historically gotten people killed, especially in the middle of the night, especially if you tell them that they're suicidal, possibly dangerous. Who knows what else you might have told them, or anyone else might have called and told them. If they had come busting in, like my children were in danger because of mean things on Twitter, because of mean words that Caryma didn't like. Let that sink in. I don't care if she denies knowing better or not. I firmly believe she knew exactly what she was doing. And that is one thing I will never, ever forgive. Ever. It won't be forgotten either. Like, that is one thing that people have attacked me, threatened me, talk crap about me, but when anyone puts my children in trouble, as someone who has lost a child to sudden infant death syndrome, I cannot tell you how protective I am of my children. And you can say I'm a bad dad, I don't even mind that stuff. But to put them in danger, in harm's way, because somebody said some mean things about you on Twitter, or because you want to prove a point or flex your muscle, whatever it is, it was absolutely the most disgusting and deplorable thing that anyone has done to me. And that includes people like Jeremy McKenzie and Goof, who is the guy who bullied me so much that I ended up with PTSD. Okay, so this, I cannot express to you how harmful what Caryma did was. Anyways, I digress. So that brings the end of the Canadian Anti-Hate and Antifaux network. Um, and I think we're just going to call this the end of part two. And we'll start up on part three, working on part three here this weekend. I'll probably have some thoughts that I didn't present here at the start of the next video, like I did before, or did in this video here. Um, I want to thank everyone for watching. Regardless of your reason for watching, I'm hoping that it's because you support me and that you maybe experience some of these things from Caryma herself or some other type of person that like that. Feel you've been bullied by someone you think is a narcissist. Um, I hope this helps show that you're not crazy and that this is really happening. As far as I'm concerned, from what I can see, from everything that I've looked at here so far, and the other parts of the video that are going to come, it's just going to become evidently clear. Um, but again, I don't want to go into too much talking about what I think of Caryma yet. I'm trying to save that for the end. So for now, we will bid you all adieu. I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to watch these videos so far. And thank you to all the new subscribers. And I hope some of you will think about subscribing and hitting that notification button so you don't miss any upcoming videos. I am the Ocean Cowboy, and thanks for tuning in.